So welcome to Hyperbaric Plus. This is our weekly podcast, Thursdays, 11 o'clock, with our good friend Keith Bishop at Prevail Over Cancer. And we are in transition. By the next couple of weeks, we're going to have everything on one platform where when we do this little podcast, we're going to go out on 10 different media outlets. So we're bringing Keith along. He hadn't done it yet, but Ryan, our producer, our in-house guy, is getting us going, and so we're out there on a lot of different platforms. So bear with us. We're going to try to work through the next couple of weeks and get all this on one. So I'm Paul, Hyperbaric Plus. This is Keith with Prevail Over Cancer, and that's Josh with Ultra Botanica. We just thought we'd do this where we could all get on one camera. So we're trying it out. So with that, I'm going to let Keith take it, and he's going to introduce our ice cream taste test.
Actually, yes. So actually, we're going to switch gears here a little bit. So Josh didn't know yet, but anyway. So we're going to be talking about popular foods in the United States, and first we're going to start off with actually ice cream. So we started that conversation last week about sweeteners, and so Josh, even though he's a couple hours away this morning, he got up early, made us some ice cream with allulose in it instead of sugar. And so, Josh, would you mind sharing? Tell us about this while I'm eating.
Yeah,
and it is good. You did good, Josh.
I just got into it because I didn't want to be a hypocrite. All the people that we talk to that have cancer or neurological issues, the first thing they're always told is get off sugar, and that's easy to say, and it's really hard to do, especially because we're addicted to sugar, and so. I focus on a clean label diet, and I was looking for alternatives, and decided, what the heck, let's try it with allulose. That'll make it clean. And this version's with cream and heavy milk, but you can do the same with coconut milk for people that want to avoid dairy. But it's a good alternative to what's out there, and it is non-glycemic, so it helps with sugar and sugar control, and kind of is a substitute for that sweet tooth.
So one of the other caveats that you were talking about, one of the other caveats that Josh was talking about is how the GLP-1 products will reduce your appetite.
Yeah, there's some research that shows that allulose has a GLP-1 kind of property to it, and so it does kind of curb your appetite.
So Josh eats his ice cream before dinner. He doesn't eat dinner.
That's just the opposite.
I'm impressed. Yeah.
It's good, and I started doing it really because we have the grandkids over, and I want them eating healthy at least when they're at our house. So
this recipe is 2 cups of heavy whipping cream.
2 cups of heavy cream, a cup of, and everything I do is grass-fed, grass-finished, organic stuff. But a cup of heavy or whole milk, a cup of allulose. The original recipe calls for a teaspoon of vanilla. I use a tablespoon, and between an eighth and a quarter teaspoon of salt. And you just mix it. I melt a cup of I take the allulose and the cream at the beginning, just kind of melt it. Allulose dissolves faster than sugar, so it doesn't take long. You don't have to use any real heat.
My first bite was, what hit me was vanilla bean ice cream.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
it's great.
The flavor is awesome.
Yeah, and it's good. I played with it. We were talking about that a minute before. I took some leftover stuff last week just because I wanted to see how it would taste, and I threw some organic cacao in it, and it hit the spot.
Next week.
Yeah.
No, and that'll help make it good for your heart, I guess. So.
Okay. So, but adding Heath Bar, Snickers.
Probably not.
Probably not a great idea.
Walnuts.
But walnuts
pecan.
and nuts and nuts and seeds and all kinds of things like that would be great toppers. To add to that.
Fruit.
And fruit, exactly. And so, matter of fact, we have our adult grandsons and their girlfriends are coming over this weekend. up from Texas. So, and they always like for me to make ice cream. I'm going to do this.
It
Yeah.
works.
This version,
It's good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm going to do this version.
Impressed.
So we have a big bag of allulose at home.
Yeah.
So we're ready to go. So I just need to.
And I would say too, just because we were talking about it earlier, is on the allulose. You know, I use an organic, single ingredient allulose.
Yeah, I bought a bag, and when it came in, I took a picture of it and sent it to Josh, and I said, I think I messed up because it has monk fruit and stevia,
Right.
which you really want to stay with straight allulose. So,
I do. Stevia still causes an insulin response. I don't. Monk fruit is fine, but I'm kind of sticking to my journey.
well, hey, you're on the right track. I love it. That's awesome.
That's great. Yes.
And I haven't had ice cream in a long time because I'm trying to stay away from sugar.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it hits the spot for a sweet tooth without having any real detrimental effects.
So does anybody has anybody had any issues with gastric distress from allulose that you know of? Have you heard anything about that?
I know that that's a common, when you look at symptoms of eating it. My experience has been that you don't eat enough. I've never heard anybody
Right.
that I've been around that have had it. But that's
So we
not
got
to
a
say-
comment section out there, and we would love to
Yes.
hear,
Yes.
as we talk about, has anybody ever, please comment if you've ever done allulose and had gastric issues, or if you have another way of making ice cream, post it on, give us some comments, because we're all about helping other people solve that sweet tooth problem, because it's bad. I mean,
Right.
it's hard to just stay away from sugar.
And I would say, you know, is it the allulose or is it what else are you
Yeah,
mixing
yeah.
with the allulose?
Well,
So
and so if you do have problems, matter of fact, please do, before we forget again, I want to stress this, turn in your questions, submit those. Ryan's going to help us, he'll print those off and give those to us so we can answer questions, but if you have comments. But if you do have an issue with allulose or actually any sugar creating some gastric distress, that could be a sign of a dysbiosis or a bad bacteria yeast imbalance. And so it is a sugar, as a matter of fact, allulose is a sugar that's found in fruit, for example, just a higher amount of it. But it still might be an energy source for some bacteria and some yeast. And if you have an overpopulation of some things, it might create a little bit of an issue. So I don't know. I haven't had enough experience with that.
that'd be interesting. That gets back to SIBO and
SIBO,
SIFO.
exactly,
Yeah.
SIBO type things. And so,
So I had a client this last week that came in after I hadn't seen him for a month. He got on the yogurt a month ago, and he came in and he said, Paul, I'm not holding any of this against you, but my wife and I have had a problem at the hospital. We went to the ER because they had a loose stool for 30 days. His wife lost 9 pounds. And she didn't have 9 pounds to lose. She's a 100-pound woman, lost 9 pounds. And he came in to share that with me, and I'm like, dude, are you understanding? And I don't know enough, I'm not Keith, and Keith would have to have more information as well. But there's a real possibility that there was a SIBO and that yogurt was reacting with something that he needs to address. I wanted to go, yeah, you got sicker than a dog, you're detoxing. I didn't say that. I don't know that that's what's happening, but it could be that that's what's going on. And he told me, he said he started at 4 ounces a day, and even after he started feeling bad, he continued at 4 ounces a day. And I'm like, no, you started a tablespoon.
Well, Dr. Davis's book does address that.
Exactly, but all he heard was all of my clients in here and the success we're all having with making our own yogurt, and he didn't start low and slow. So now as we talk about yogurt in here, I'm always going to make sure low and slow, and as your body is telling you it's okay, then continue.
Well, and I think it also goes to same thing, be educated. I mean, we I'm an apostle for that book.
Right.
But read the book.
And we promote the book big time in here. It sits in here on my shelf for people to use as a reference.
It's not just
the
fad thing of try this. There's a research science behind what he published, and it does talk about that. If you have that reaction, it typically would indicate that you've got something else going on that you need to address.
Right. And that's what I So anyway, but you know, the medical community's not picking up on that. He's not getting that kind of guidance from his doctor.
Right.
And that's why I said it's so important to run out.
The name of the book.
Super Gut by
Yes.
Dr. William Davis.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So anyway, that's why I get people over to Keith, because Keith is approaching all the things that my clients are dealing with from a totally different perspective. And literally, my clients haven't heard any of this from their doctor. So as all doctors say, they get 30 minutes of nutritional, you know, in their 4 years of training, they get 30 minutes or an hour of nutrition.
Right.
And that just doesn't work.
Right,
So,
it's not enough. That's
Yeah.
that's right. So submit your questions, comment, and matter of fact, well, the next thing we're going to talk about is another one of my favorite foods. I do like ice cream. Matter of fact, I like to make my own ice cream because I like to know what is in it. When you read those ingredients at the stores, there's all kinds of emulsifiers,
Yeah.
thickening ingredients, and creamers, and those actually create problems. And so emulsifiers, they're called mono and diglycerides are common, and those increase the risk of cancer. And so emulsifiers are also in some cottage cheese and a lot of different foods. And so even some, I was trying to be healthy, I had some gluten-free pasta. And because I feel better without the gluten, although it still could be just a total calories, but I feel better without the gluten. And then my gluten-free pasta has mono and diglycerides in it
Yeah.
to make it a smooth product, but there's studies showing that increases the risk of cancers. So we got to read those ingredients. I do like to make homemade items as much as possible. That we were talking about that earlier, also about making things at home. You know, I don't always have time, and so therefore, like our next topic is going to be about pizza, and I do like to make my pizza at home when I have time, but also I love my pizza, and so and many of us do, but we need to change some things about that. And so this is a topic. So matter of fact, some of you haters, and I've already had some from a post, like major, being upset. I'm not saying never eat pizza. We need to change gears on this. We need to change what we do. And the traditional pizza that we're fixing, actually has, a lot of carcinogens in it. And it is considered to be a ultra-processed food because the meats that are on it, the way it's cooked, and or sometimes even frozen in that process, there's a lot of preservatives in that. It creates a lot of problems. So let me look at my handout here. So pizza, burnt crust. And so whenever that crust is cooked, that brown edge is a sign of what are called acrylamides. Same thing happens with crackers or breads. That crust contains acrylamides, or any high temperature carbohydrate cooked at high temperature is going to form that. French fries are probably the worst. Commercial French fries are the worst because they actually add sugar into those French fries at the restaurants, and when they cook that at high temperature, it forms acrylamides. Acrylamides are cancer-causing and what are also called PAHs. So that burnt crust is a major issue, and part of that issue is the heat that's involved. As a matter of fact, my first job, I was so excited about this. When I was 16 years old, on my birthday, I started working at a pizza place, and I loved it. And matter of fact, on my birthday, 16th birthday, I drove my car, and started that job on my birthday. I loved it. I loved pizza back then. I changed gears now because of that. So, but the temperature even, at that oven was almost 600 or 700 degrees in that oven that they had, and extremely hot, and to cook it quick. to get it out to the,
I was going to say that's the kind of like everything else, the industrialization of pizza.
Yes,
because that's
exactly.
not how it's traditionally made.
That's correct, yeah. And so, but even so, that type of an oven, but even the brick ovens, that restaurants use now,
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
That temperature. Matter of fact, I did some research on that. So a rotating oven like what I did back when I was 16 years old, 600, 800 degrees, a convection oven, 450 to 600 degrees, gas, electric, 500. A wood-fired can get very hot.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I will cook a pizza on my ceramic plate, or stone, I guess you want to call it
Yeah.
that, on my gas grill, but I'm keeping the temperature low. And it's not going to cook in 5 minutes. It's going to take me 20 minutes to cook that pizza on that stone in my gas grill because I'm cooking it at 350 or below.
Right.
So anything above 350 starts making cancer-causing chemicals in those carbohydrates. And so those carbohydrates, luckily I ate all of that. So those carbohydrates are, in the breads. And so the breads at high temperature becomes a problem. So avoid the blackened crust, the burnt part. We did go out to have pizza the other night. We did make it special. I'm going to keep talking about that. But eating that part of that pizza, actually one edge of that crust was a lot browner, almost black, compared to the other part. So that blackened, that extremely dark brown and blackened part is the worst part. So that's the part you do not want to be eating. And so try to go with other pizzas that are lower carbohydrate, including cauliflower and almond crusts. So cauliflower is pretty common in a lot of restaurants. Matter of fact, you can buy, and we have some in our freezer at home, some cauliflower crusts ready to go. So that when we have that pizza craving and we have bad weather, we don't want to get out because it's a 20-minute drive for us to get somewhere. Well, we can make that pizza at home and have a better option and a lower carbohydrate. So if it's lower carbs and then cooking it, you're not going to get as many acrylamides, in that. So we want to be careful about
And
that.
there's some great home almond flour recipes. We make almond flour crust at home, and
Geared
it's
specifically for
great.
pizza crusts.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. Simple ingredients, just a few things. You add a little bit more oil to them and water and mix it up. It's simple.
We just literally, it's egg, almond flour. I use cheese, some organic cheese, and I use a raw milk Parmesan in it, which causes it to crust, gives it the crunchier crust, and it's super simple.
We need him to move down here.
Yeah, or we're going to start driving to Tulsa.
To Tulsa, go to his house more often. So on that, so we can make healthier options. So once again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have pizza. But we just need to be changing what we're doing. So we can go with some other crusts, and you can change. And so along that line, still about the carbohydrates. So that is going to be part of it. And so let's see if I address that. Let's see, we'll go back into that later. So about the thickness of the crust could be a concern too. Okay, so processed meats. So the pepperoni, the sausage, the ham, the Canadian bacon. Am I missing any preservative meats that are typically put on pizzas?
Those, I mean,
Those are the main
Those are
ones.
the main ones. Okay,
Yeah.
those are the main ones.
Anchovies.
Well, anchovies are great. Matter of fact, I have it on the
No.
list here.
Yeah.
It's,
you
it's
do?
good. It's
Okay.
good, actually. But those particular meats, have preservatives called nitrates that they've added to those, and then when they cook them at those extremely high temperatures, those turn into nitrosamines. And nitrosamines increase the risk of cancers and of many different cancers. I think I even have a list of that, on here. But most cancers, but even it's greater concern actually for renal or kidney cancer and bladder cancer because the body's having to process those chemicals and get rid of those. And so, and that's going through those organs and has a tendency to damage those even more. So going with things like chicken, so that's what we did the other night. We went to the restaurant, and they did have a chicken pizza. They had a couple of different chicken pizzas, but the one we chose was a Florentine, so we also got the spinach added to it. It had pesto. We went in and added the marinara, the red sauce, to that to increase the antioxidants on that. But anchovies would be another great option if you like anchovies.
And I'd say if you're making at home, you can do the sausage. You know, like Whole Foods makes a sausage that doesn't have it. I mean, it's just fresh meat and fat.
Right.
It's so you can do if you're cooking your own, you can find those meats that are not ultra
Nitrate-free.
processed.
Nitrate free. So so we processed a hog, and we have nitrate free sausage. And so, another option would be beef. So beef is typically not a preservative type item. It depends on the restaurant. You know, I'm sure there probably are some that would be a nitrate source, and at some restaurants, because they buy it from huge companies that provide those foods. But I would lean toward chicken and beef. For most of the restaurants for those pizzas.
I'm gonna get hold of Hideaway and ask them if they got a what do you call it, the Philly steak pizza.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't that kind of sound good? Philly steak pizza. Do they have that?
I don't know that they do.
But to get away from some processed
Yes, I don't think that I don't remember them having a Hideaway Pizza originally in Stillwater, and so they started in 1957. I know all about them. In Stillwater, Oklahoma, now they're going nationwide chain, and they have great pizzas, and I do like them. That's where we went the other day. But I don't remember seeing a steak pizza. We do that at home.
Yeah, I just think it would be an option as people learn about nitrates.
Exactly.
What else can we do?
Definitely move to regenerative beef if you can,
Right,
and it'll be a healthier choice.
Right.
That's right. So there's always going to be better options that we can do on that.
I was going to ask about cauliflower. Costco has a cauliflower pizza. It's in their frozen section. You're buying cauliflower crust.
Yes, right.
Frozen, I assume. So is there a good source? I mean, what do you like or dislike about those kinds of crusts?
Well, it depends on the ingredients.
Yeah.
And so just because it's cauliflower, that means it's going to be lower carbs. Matter of fact, cauliflower crust is almost half as many carbohydrates, which is very important. As far as this, the number of calories that we're eating. But it depends on those other ingredients. So I have to read the ingredient list. I do have some at home. I keep it in the freezer. That actually the crust, but I don't care for everything else that they typically put on that.
I'll say, because Whole Foods last week was having a 50% off sale on their cauliflower crust pizzas. And my wife went and grabbed one to look at, and I flipped it over, and I was 3 words into it before it put it back.
Yep.
It's just not
Too many.
Preservatives and other things in it that make the healthy part of it not worth it.
Yeah, so I'd rather I start with the crust. And matter of fact, it doesn't, we don't even have to have traditional crust.
Right.
And we can use all kinds of breads. As a matter of fact, sourdough bread would be another great option.
It is. We've tried it.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Would be another great option. To
How about
have
flatbread pizza? Is that a type of bread that?
tortillas. Yeah, there's all kinds of things that we could do, with that. That's correct. And so we don't have to be tied into traditional type
It's your
pizzas.
chance to be creative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's definitely more things we can do. So, but chicken, beef, anchovies, and vegetables. So vegetables, are antioxidants that repair our body. And so, we've got the mushrooms and the peppers and the onions and the spinach, olives. All of these things are antioxidants and flavor and texture and extremely important. So that is a major, major thing and very important. Are y'all getting hungry yet?
Where's the pizza?
Yeah, where's the pizza?
This started in the chamber, and my stomach started growling.
Okay, so and the pineapple. Yeah. Well, and so yes, pineapple would be an option. It is a fruit, and it is a few calories. So, matter of fact, actually, my favorite pizza when I was 16 years old was a Hawaiian pizza, and it was a Canadian bacon or ham with pineapple. Well, that's not necessarily the healthiest option. Maybe too many carbohydrates from the pineapple. It depends how much pineapple you put on there.
Good for your brain, though.
It's got some good things. Yes, it does have some good things. So, but it would be an option, and I would occasionally do that, definitely. So, but I'm going to concentrate on the crust because those are things that we can make a change. So when we go to the restaurant, we often have a choice. Okay, do you want thin crust, thick crust, or hand tossed, or whatever? So I'm actually looking at kind of the thickness of it. So at one time, even the thick pie thing was an option. Well, that's just probably too many carbohydrates. Too much bread, and we don't need that much bread. So, matter of fact, kind of underlying thing I'm thinking about when I do have pizza, is I have what's called the PALM rule for cancer foods. But matter of fact, actually, I use this for cancer, but even with weight management. But basically, 3 palms of food is a meal. And if you have more than 3 palms of food at one meal, that's going to be too much. So a palm means the size and the thickness of the palm of your hand. And so the bigger your hand, the more food. Like, your hand is big, okay, compared to your wife's, little tiny thing that she is. She can't have 3 of your palms of food. That's going to be too much for her, and it's going to be enough for you. So, and typically it means like 1 palm of protein, a meat protein, if you have meat in that meal, 1 palm of meat, and then put 2 palms of carbohydrates. So, so I'm going with a thin crust, ideally cauliflower or almond, and then I'm being careful about how many pieces. So, it may only be 2, if it's a big pizza or big slices, it may only be 2 slices. And if I'm still hungry, I really probably should have had a salad, to help with that, because it takes 20 minutes to get full, no matter how much you eat. If you eat a little bit, you're going to get full in 20 minutes. If you eat a lot, you get full in 20 minutes. So really a salad and greens and veggies, all those type of things would be a great option too. But we want to be careful about those, how many carbohydrates that we get, from that. So thick crust like that will increase insulin levels. And elevated insulin is a risk factor for, I'll go through these, breast cancer, colorectal cancer, glioblastoma, prostate cancer, pancreatic cancer, lung cancer, ovarian cancer, and endometrial cancer, and probably others. Those are the ones that just kind of popped up real quick.
In addition to type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, not counting weight gain, issues too. So we have to be careful about that quantity. So going with more than 2 or 3 slices, depending on the size of that slice, is going to be too much. So those smarter swaps can include the whole grain is typically going to be a little better, more fiber in it, and not as many carbohydrates. Cauliflower and almond are going to be better options. Smaller quantities, like the palm rule I mentioned. And then, this is something else I used to do, sugary beverages or beer, okay, with that. So, matter of fact, I used to go out every Friday night was pizza night. Pizza and Dr. Pepper, okay? And so that was not a great idea. And so that's just more carbohydrates and sugar. So matter of fact, even just one sweetened beverage like Dr. Pepper a day increases the risk of prostate cancer by over 30%.
Yeah.
Okay? So, and same thing with other cancers too. So actually having 3 pieces of pizza and a sugar beverage or a beer on top of that, too many carbs. And so we've got to be very careful about that. And unsweetened tea. So if you do want to try to reduce some oxidative damage effects, meaning the burnt meat, the burnt crust, damaging our body, it's the antioxidants in the fruits and vegetables that repairs our body, and or tea, unsweetened tea. So if I'm definitely having a meal that may not be ideal, I am definitely drinking the tea. Even though it may be black tea, not quite as good as green tea, I'm still going to drink that tea because it's going to provide antioxidants that repairs the body. So it's kind of like when you cut that apple in half, it starts being damaged because the flesh of the apple doesn't have the antioxidants in it like the peel, that red or green peel does have antioxidants and keeps that apple from turning brown, but once you cut it open, well, we have to have the peels, and we have to have the dark-colored fruits and vegetables to repair our body.
So I was watching either Brecca or Asprey or somebody the other day on TV, and they were talking about eating barbecue because somebody from Kansas City was down. They were in Austin, and they started arguing about who had the best barbecue. And then the conversation went into how many barbecue places serve coleslaw with that burnt meat. The coleslaw would counteract that, and they said, was that by design, or was that, I mean, where did that come from? So many of the barbecue places serve coleslaw, and that really counteracts all the things that we're talking about
The
in
damaging
well-done
effects.
meat. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. So well done smoked meats, are damaged.
I know you
and-
stay away from
and
it,
so
period.
I try
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. So we do have barbecue. That's another popular thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I try to go with meats that are not smoked.
Mm-hmm.
And so ribs are not.
Right.
They're just smoked too much and too dark. So the darker the cooked meat, the greater the concern. So I try to be careful about that, and even smoked meats. You have another
You just
thought?
always like to be the bearer of bad news.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
not really. And so oh yes, a question.
Does that include fish?
And fish, if you burnt fish, it'd be a problem.
No, if you smoke it.
Smoked fish, yes, it'd be a problem.
Keith
That's right.
doesn't smoke anything. I told him I was thinking about getting a smoker, and he goes, that's something you won't find at my house.
Yeah, well, I have one, but I don't use it anymore.
Well,
I use
that's-
it to dehydrate my vegetables
That's
and,
good, 'cause it's
and
hard
meats.
to roll up in little pieces.
So I quit smoking meats because of those concerns, and so because some of us, including myself, I have an issue genetically getting rid of those
Right.
toxins out of my body,
Right.
and so most of us do have that. We just don't know it, and so, a matter of fact, there's studies like, firefighters used to before they started wearing all of the protective measures. The firefighters, a lot of times died of cancers
Well,
at a higher rate than most people did. So, we do that,
it's burning a lot worse than
Yeah, oh, yeah.
whatever's in the meat. for sure.
Worse than the
Yeah.
meat, exactly. Worse than the meat. But yes, so actually a combination is going to decrease that concern. So, the salads, the greens, the cabbage, the beans, with barbecue meat would decrease the concern. Same thing with the pizza. Having a salad would be a great option because a salad is going to provide the antioxidants that could help offset some of the potential damage.
But
caused
even
by
in the
that.
slaw, you need to pay attention to if it's
creaminess.
made with mayonnaise, is it vegetable
Right.
oil or is it avocado oil?
I just thought
if
it
you
was-
want to be pure,
Yeah, I just thought it was strange that came up when they were
Yeah.
talking about, because all barbecue is going to be somewhat burned meat.
yeah,
It's
and you
what
get
gives
that
it its
sweet.
flavor.
You get the sweet
Yeah,
flavor from
yeah.
the cauliflower or from the coleslaw as
Right.
well. Yeah, yeah. Or
So
allulose.
if you have any questions, submit those, and we're going to have a little Q&A session here in just a moment about pizza and ice cream or other type questions, and then same thing with our group at the round table. So
Anybody over there got any questions for us? I got a microphone. I'd even turn the camera around on you. No. They just all left. I don't know. So one thing that I saw in a video that I was watching, they were talking, it was a whole video about honey. It was Dr. Axe, Josh Axe, and they were talking about all the different components in honey. And so I put a little shot of honey in my coffee, and I'm going to try to do a teaspoon of honey every day. And they were talking about all the products that are in that honey that I was never aware of. So even the components inside the nest there's tremendous benefit. They're actually starting to do a lot of research
Yeah.
on those components.
I mean, you still got to pay attention to the sugar content, but it's a healthier sugar option for sure.
Right.
Right.
And
And-
it
Unpasteurized raw is the only
Right.
thing. Everything else is really not healthy.
try to get it local.
Right.
Yeah.
And try to get it local for the pollen.
Yeah, for the pollen, and which may even help out with allergies and type of thing. So the only thing I'd have to say, and I try not to be negative about stuff, but just make sure your coffee isn't extremely hot.
Okay.
Okay, and so
Well, I actually put a teaspoon in my yogurt as well. I mean, I just thought I'd try it in coffee. Never had, but it gave it a neat flavor.
And so, but actually, honey, when heated, actually forms a toxic chemical.
Okay.
And so
That's what they were talking about, putting a shot in your coffee, and I'm like, okay.
not
good.
extremely hot.
I
So
got you.
if it's steaming, it actually needs to cool down. If it's over 140 degrees, honey actually turns into a toxic chemical. I can't remember the name of the acronym on that. but it actually is a major issue. So fresh honey is better, and we were talking about dates earlier.
Yeah.
And so dates are very important on honey. The longer it sits on the shelf, the greater the concern is for this toxic chemical. And this toxic chemical, if I remember correctly, it is a cancer risk even.
I don't know. I mean, it makes sense because,
Yeah.
you know, it sits on the shelf and it starts to turn into solid sugar over time.
The sugars,
They're-
aren't so much the concern. But matter of fact, what started my journey on that part was you heat that honey, that crystallized honey, and it turns
Melts it
clear
back,
for a
yeah.
while. For a while,
Yeah.
and it turns back. But heating that honey actually creates that toxic
Yeah.
chemical. So heating the honey, I don't do that anymore. I just go ahead and, even if it's cloudy, I still go ahead and use it
Yeah.
on that. So.
So we got a couple of questions
Couple
there.
questions. How does allulose affect blood sugar?
It doesn't have a blood sugar effect.
Okay.
So yeah, it's non-apparent.
I think it's probably a large molecule, and
I'm not sure.
Takes time for the body to chop it up and use it. That's kind of the way the alcohol sugars are. You know,
Yeah.
they're a large chemical, and it takes time to chop those alcohol sugars. So I'm not sure on the allulose.
The properties on it don't cause a blood sugar spike or an insulin response.
Okay.
So it's pretty. As far as the sweeteners that are out there, it seems to be the least of issues.
Yes, and so sweeteners. As a matter of fact, another one that I think of that I use quite a bit in cancers is D-mannose. If a word ends in OSE, that means it's a sugar. And D-mannose is a sugar that our body makes from other sugars. Some of us lose that ability, but that sugar actually coats the inside of the bladder and keeps bacteria from sticking to the bladder wall. So therefore, it's a sugar that's in cranberries. Now, cranberries aren't that sweet.
Right.
Okay.
And I will tell you, because my wife asked me to pick up some cranberry juice, and I picked up
A good one.
100% organic cranberry juice. It didn't have sugar, nothing was added to it. It just squished cranberries.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not sweet.
Not sweet, that's
Yeah.
right. But there's sugar in it.
Yeah,
And
natural sugar.
They're natural sugar, but that D-mannose also is a sugar that cancer cells will actually take in, and they try to use it, but they can't. And as so matter of fact, I do the D-mannose before eating a meal. Allulose, I wonder. Not enough studies on it yet, but the D-mannose, there's a lot of studies on that. Cancer cells take that in, and they can't use that sugar,
So
and now they're trying to do it. And then when you have other sugars available, they're already trying to use this other sugar, so they're going to kind of, in a way, starve.
Right.
Be preoccupied. Or one person mentioned it, they were diverted, or another term. I'm drawing a blank on that. But
that'd be kind of interesting, combining that with berberine at the
yes, actually,
at the onset.
I do use berberine and D-mannose. And matter of fact, I like to do berberine and D-mannose before meals.
Yeah.
And so, and actually, we've had some pretty good results with that. And so there's some science behind it. And then, what's your view on stevia? We mentioned that earlier.
Yeah,
but-
so stevia is 7 times sweeter than sugar, which is great, and it's generally considered an alternative, but it causes an insulin response. So even though it's an alternative, it's not for what I do, it's not as healthy of a choice. And
Okay.
that's why I switch, because I used to use stevia all the time. And if you're going to use stevia, make sure it's pure stevia. It doesn't have maltodextrin in it, which is common.
Or
erythritol.
erythritol,
Yeah.
right.
And then that would be my recommendation. It's still an okay sweetener, but
But if you're diabetic, stay away from it. If you can do allulose, do allulose. Is that what?
yeah, I mean, it's not going to have as severe of a response, but it does cause an insulin response, and insulin is, it's diverting carbs to fat. In my opinion, I just stay away from it.
Okay.
But allulose does not. Yeah. So that's what I was just trying to drive
Yeah.
that home.
I haven't tested that yet, so I will do that. I normally don't do very many sweets, except for occasional ice cream. But But I need to try the allulose and test my blood glucose before,
Yeah. And
do the ice cream, and then test it in 1 and 2 hours afterwards and see
Yeah.
what happens with that. So,
I got a feeling we're going to be talking about sugars next week. That would be
Maybe again,
interesting
yeah.
to kind of nail that down.
well, you're running down the journey, and if you're giving up the things that you like, if there's some alternatives out there. I mean, there's some alternative pretzel recipe. There's some stuff out there that hits the spot. It's not the same, but it hits the spot.
yeah, okay. And then another question, ivermectin, do you recommend it? And then prostate cancer, do you recommend ivermectin? So ivermectin does have some anti-cancer actions, and it does help keep cancer cells from growing. And it's not well researched. It's a newer kind of a repurposed medication, so it can have some anti-cancer effects. I can't say specifically that a person should take it in this type of a platform. I do assessments on that. It is becoming more and more popular. Matter of fact, a person today mentioned that his oncologist that he saw just this last week, actually did not tell him not to do it. So, which is actually a step forward, and that oncologists are starting to recognize the anti-cancer effects. Research is slow on that, and for it to be approved may not happen because the FDA. Actually, nobody's going to be doing human studies to get the FDA to approve it unless there's a major change in some processes that we were talking about again too. So, about the government, on that. So yes, but ivermectin does have some anti-cancer effects on most cancers. It depends on brain cancer. This person did have brain cancer, and it does cross the blood-brain barrier. But once again, there's just not great research on that. But I do use it quite a bit.
There's a couple of interesting studies with triple-negative breast cancer and ivermectin as a adjunctive therapy.
There's some thoughts that it actually can help cancer cells to be more susceptible to other treatments, to radiation and chemotherapy even. So it's well worth considering and talking to your team about that. And making sure that you get the right kind of dose. I do want to throw out a word of caution. So a high dose of ivermectin is actually a neurotoxin. And I've seen people actually get depression and confusion and visual disturbances. And actually the visual disturbances can be peripheral. One of my clients, a pilot, he felt like something was over here and kept looking, trying to find it, but his peripheral vision was off. And then another one of my clients in the metro area, she felt like that it was like circles in her eyes, and then they decrease the dose, and that goes away.
And were they taking that in conjunction with any of the
Oh yeah,
others?
they were taking a lot of other things.
Or bendazole.
They were taking a lot of other things, and so but the dose was actually a pretty high dose.
Yeah.
But that's the way actually it works as an anti-parasite, is that it paralyzes the nervous system of the parasites, and so therefore it can have some similar type effects in our nervous system, and everybody's different. So if you start noticing that, or actually I'd recommend my clients talk to a loved one to evaluate or let them know what they're doing, and if they start acting confused or depression or some visual type things, to cut back on the dose.
Yeah,
So,
stay in tune with your body.
Yeah, exactly. Stay in tune with your body, but have somebody else that's kind of evaluating some of those too. Oh, some more questions. Good, thank you. So, AGEs, advanced glycation products, combining protein and sugars. Does that include barbecue sauce and or fruit salad? How harmful is AGE? So advanced glycation products, it's kind of like like doing that barbecue and then smoking the meat, cooking the meat, grilling it, and then putting the barbecue sauce that has molasses and sugar and or honey, and you keep cooking that, and you brown that and blacken that. That's glycation, and that's or like cinnamon toast. Cooking that sugar and crystallizing that, that's creating some bad chemicals, and that is the stuff that's bad. So yes, that is a major issue, and so I do. Let's see, what's the Primal Kitchen has a barbecue sauce and ketchup.
Yeah.
That I do like. And so I will use those. And once again, I like that Primal Kitchen version of it, even though somebody told me they sold out to a major company recently. But still, it's a better option than most sugar-laden type products. with that. So yes, that could be an issue, and so it requires antioxidants to repair that damage that we put into our body. What would be your best advice for someone newly diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer? So pancreatic cancer is another one of these sugar type sugar is a driver of pancreatic cancer. And so number one would be more like a ketogenic type diet, intermittent fasting, and then the typical products. And I like the Ultra Botanica products. I do use those, for that type of a situation. But the polyphenols, help to address those growth patterns of pancreatic cancer. So it's a major, it's a difficult one to fight.
Yeah.
So, on that. Okay. Any other questions?
We had a stopping point.
Yep,
I'll
I think
close
we're at
this thing
stopping
out.
point.
So thank you all for hanging in there with us with our new technology. We're going to really try to transition everything over to that. Maybe it'll be a little smoother next time. But I am Paul with Hyperbaric Plus. That's hyperbaric.plus if you ever visit our website. Keith with prevailovercancer.com. And this is Josh with ultrabotanica.com. And hey, if you got questions that you want to see us talk about on the next show, let us know what those are. I got a feeling we're going to talk about sugars next week.
Yeah,
Is
sugars,
that-
okay, yeah.
Is
Sure.
that something to have a conversation
Yeah.
about? So if you got anything that has to do with sugars, give us a call. I love sweetness.
Yeah, and by the way, you can comment, if you'll comment pizza in a comment on Instagram on my account, you'll get a link going to my blog post where I go into great detail about this.
I thought you were going to say a coupon to Hideaway. I thought you had some deal going if you do pizza. But anyway, thank you all for joining us again. And Ryan, thanks for getting us
Yeah.
down the path on this. Looking forward to
great.
our next one. So we will see you all later.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. That was awesome. All the food.